Hello, everyone, and welcome to the fall edition of our Red Couch Conversation, a community conversation between the American Heart Association and Lehigh Valley Health Network. I'm Lindsay Watson, co-founder of FIA NYC Employment Services, and also a proud board member of the Lehigh Valley and Berks American Heart Association Board of Directors. Tonight, I'm filling in for our usual host, Executive Director Abby Silfies. It is my pleasure today to be joined on our virtual Red Couch by Dr. Nidhi Mehta. Dr. Nidhi Mehta is a cardiologist with LVPG Cardiology Muhlenberg and has clinical interest in preventative cardiology, lipidology, and heart and pregnancy. She plays a pivotal role in the Lehigh Valley and Vascular Institute's an advanced lipid management and cardiac prevention program, the Women's Heart and Vascular program, and the Cardio Obstetrics program, a program that aligns with the conversations we will be having today about maternal mortality. Today's discussion is one I find very interesting. As you may already know, cardiovascular disease is the leading cause of maternal death in the United States. In other words, cardiovascular disease is the #1 killer of new moms. It can pose a threat to women's heart health during pregnancy and later in life, making it important that women understand how to care for themselves and their babies. Let's talk about some of the key issues. Dr. Mehta, we've been told your health during and immediately after a pregnancy can shape your lifelong health and the health of your child. What are some pregnancy-related conditions women need to be aware of?
That's a great question, Lindsay. I think pregnancy-related conditions have really been in the limelight more recently in the last decade because we realize there are specific conditions that really affect cardiovascular disease. One of the conditions is something called preeclampsia. Preeclampsia is when you have a rise in your blood pressure during the 3rd trimester and postpartum, a rise in your blood pressure and some other abnormalities such as protein in your urine. Women who have preeclampsia have a 2 to 4-fold increased risk of developing high blood pressure, stroke, and heart disease later in life. So we have found that this condition can be associated with long-term cardiovascular outcomes. And as we all know, high blood pressure during pregnancy in general, not only preeclampsia, but just elevated blood pressure readings in pregnancy has become more common, as well as gestational diabetes, which increases your risk of diabetes long-term, are all very much associated with these conditions.
Wow, what helpful information. Thank you so much. What are some of the other key points you would like women to know about?
So I think the most important thing is to understand that we talk about maternal death, but we also talk about long-term cardiovascular outcomes. And as we all know, is that women young to middle-aged have the fastest rise in cardiovascular risk factors and heart disease long-term. So one of the things I think we all need to be aware of that pregnancy-related conditions, as mentioned, such as preeclampsia, such as eclampsia, which is another condition which is associated with seizures, gestational diabetes, as well as gestational hypertension, are all conditions that women need to be aware of. And that means closely monitoring blood pressure prior to pregnancy, during pregnancy, and even post-pregnancy, and understanding that will help both the mom and the baby live healthier lives.
That's amazing. Now, Dr. Mehta, you just spoke of blood pressure and risks. Can you further explain to our audience how blood pressure can be managed?
So blood pressure can be managed both with a home blood pressure cuff. And we understand that young moms have a lot on their plate with taking care of their children. All it does is getting an electronic cuff at your local grocery store and getting it checked at the doctor's office and closely monitoring your blood pressures even at home. And that's one step. We also have other resources which links these blood pressure readings to doctor's offices, especially for again, moms who have a hard time getting to visits where they can link these blood pressure readings. Being mindful of other parameters such as sugars, weight, dietary patterns, exercise. All these things are really important to manage blood pressure because all of these risk factors are associated with it. And we know that there's definitely differences among different ethnic backgrounds as to their risk of developing high blood pressure. As we know, African-American women have a more than twofold risk of having pre-pregnancy elevated blood pressure compared to white and Latino women. And these are important risk factors that we have to consider when we're taking care of these women, both prior in terms of preconception, during pregnancy, postpartum, and in the years ahead.
This is such important information and a great conversation to have all around. I'd be remiss to then not ask, what is the Women's Heart and Vascular Program doing right now to support and prevent maternal mortality?
So we have a couple of different programs. I've been very much involved in the Heart Health After Preeclampsia program. That is a program where we align with obstetrics and women who have a diagnosis of preeclampsia or gestational hypertension are linked to cardiology early on. As I had mentioned earlier, women, again, 35 to 55 years of age, are seeing the fastest rise in cardiovascular events. So it's a population that's near and dear to me, is how can we help to control their risk factors younger as opposed to, reaching them middle age where potentially the damage is done, where they've had remodeling of their heart or thickened heart muscle because of long-standing high blood pressure. And again, as we mentioned earlier, women who have these conditions are also at increased risk of having a stroke. So a lot of this is counseling, as I mentioned earlier, educating them about how to check their blood pressure, having a home cuff, understanding cholesterol and sugar, what that means, not when we're 65, but when we're 35. That's one of our programs. The other program, as you had mentioned earlier, is the cardio obstetrics program. This is a program that's offered with the high-risk pregnancy team of obstetricians, where the cardiologist and the obstetrician both in an interdisciplinary fashion discuss the patient's risk about cardiovascular events during pregnancy and how we can best take care of them throughout their entire pregnancy so they have a safe delivery both to mom and baby. And so that is a program that we have started. It's been ongoing both in Northampton County and Lehigh County. And it's I think really changed how we take care of women who both have established cardiovascular disease, as we mentioned earlier, but they can also have congenital heart disease as well. So that's where we're working on trying to both do a preventative and as well as they're pregnant, how we can best take care of them.
Wow, Dr. Mehta, thank you so much for sharing all that valuable information and tying everything in for us. I knew for me, you just shared so many things that I can do at home to take care of my heart health right now, today. And I think that's going to be super helpful for our community as well. So last but not least, Dr. Mehta, because maternal health is critical, can you tell me a little bit about how the work that you're doing aligns with and supports the American Heart Association?
So a lot of what we're doing is more preventative. It's providing awareness to young women about the importance of these cardiovascular risk factors. And both making that the awareness, but also trying to provide them resources that they can turn to, such as even, as we mentioned, blood pressure tracker, or different dietary patterns and recipes that are offered through the American Heart Association. These are little things that we can consider that can go a long way to help in their long-term cardiovascular health. As we know, we try to take care of women in all stages and ages of life throughout the program. And I think it's important that we start younger as opposed to older.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Mehta. I can't tell you how informational this has been for me. And I hope and believe that everyone tuning in today found this as impactful as I have. Thank you so much for joining us, everyone. We will see you again in December for our next edition. Dr. Mehta, thank you so much for taking the time to share your wisdom. Until then, you can always find us at www.heart.org. Thank you so much and good night.